Okay, so this is a quick video on connecting R to SQL Server. I keep mentioning in other videos and stuff, we are SQL people, that's kind of our speciality, but obviously SQL Server is the back end for all manner of stuff, especially things that do kind of data mining, machine learning, that kind of stuff. So R, Python, etc. A lot of the times are back-ended by SQL, so to actually have a connection between them, pretty useful. To know how to do it, very handy. And R is a little bit quirky, but not actually too bad. Once you've kind of got it up and running, it's really easy. It's just the initial kind of setup that's just a little bit odd. So we're just going to go through a quick connection between R and SQL Server now. I'm not going to do the install of R, bit overkill, but for anyone that kind of doesn't have R installed already, you just need to put R into Google. It's a little odd just putting a single character, but it does work. You get the R project, click through that, and you'll see download R. You then basically go to your local mirror, so in my case I'm using London, and then you would just do download R for whatever. In my case it's Windows. You can see by the purple I've done this before because it's my demo box and I've had to test this out. So download R for Windows, and then when you go to install it, it is just a next. It's quite an easy install for R. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be connecting R using Visual Studio Code. Whatever I come up with now does work in RStudio and any other R GUI. This is just to connect R the language, so it doesn't matter what you do it in, I'm just using Visual Studio Code, so no matter what you're using, it'll still work. Now for SQL Server, I have my SQL Server and I have database that I commonly use if anyone's done any of my training or seen any of the other videos. This is the database I use for basically everything. It's just my mock-up supermarket. And this is my employee table. As you can see, it's got like 200 and something employees, and that's what we're going to go throwing into R. So we're going to just switch over to Visual Studio Code. Now, if you're using R or intending to use R, you're going to need extensions in this. Now, the two that I would recommend are the main R one, which is this, has the funky R logo, and R tools. And if you have both of them installed, you're going to be pretty much good to go. So install both of those. I've already got them installed, so I'm just going to go straight to my files and create a new file, and we're just going to call this data.r. So when you're doing a connection, what you're going to need is you're going to need an ODBC. Now first things first is to install the package into R, so install packages RODBC. Now if you run this, this will install the RODBC package into R. That's kind of what you want. I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to run this, but you'll need to have that running. While that's running, what we're going to do is go into Windows, and we're just going to type ODBC. Windows these days is 64-bit, so I'm going to use 64-bit ODBC. Now you can see I've already got an R data driver set up, so I'm just going to remove this and set it up from scratch again so you can kind of see what it's doing. So find your ODBC driver for SQL Server. I've got driver 17 because I'm using SQL 2019, but you might have kind of other ones, 13, etc. Just pick whichever one happens to be your one. Name it what you like. As you saw, I had mine as R data. You don't have to give it a description if you don't want to, but you can. Server, I'm going to connect to my local server, so you stick your server name in. Now, two options here. You can obviously use SQL Server using login and password. You would stick them down here just to test it. It doesn't save them, so you would have to use it on the connection every time you make a connection from R, but I'll show you that one because I'm going to use integrated authentication because it's easier. Now, you do have to have a default database, so I'm going to point it at my food and stuff database, and that's it. Then just next, finished, test your source, completed successfully, and we're good. So we now have an ODBC driver for our data. Okay. Now, once we've done that, all we need to do is obviously use the library. If I could learn to type, that would be great. I don't want the IntelliSense, so RODBC. So I just want the RODBC library. Now, you want to make yourself a connection. We're just going to do ODBC connection, connect. And then all we're going to do is use our driver name. Okay. Now, if you were using SQL Server authentication, you would in here type user ID, I don't know, let's say Bob, and password equals global. And that's how you'd use SQL Server authentication. But If all you're wanting to do is just Windows authentication like mine is, you can just specify the ODBC and it will just work. So I'm going to create myself a data frame, and I am going to put a SQL query, and then I'm just going to use my connection, and then we're just going to put a query in. So I'm just going to do select star from hr.employee, and that will literally just put a SQL data set into your data frame. So if I run that, you will see down here that should have worked. I'm just going to run it again just to be certain. There you go. See, everything's nice and happy down here. You can see that we've got successful, mostly because it hasn't thrown any errors out. Now, just to kind of double check, what we can do is let's have a look at the structure of our data set. Let's run that. And you can now see we've got our full structure. So you can see kind of we've got every single column name, we've got the types, integer characters, dates, etc. And you've got a sample of some of the data in it. So you can see it's pulled our table into a data frame, which is great. We can obviously just look at some of the records in there. And there you go, there's just a few of the records, so kind of the top 6. So you can see we've now got a fully populated data frame. I suppose last thing we can do is just a box plot, and let's throw in my data. Let's do a box plot of the salary. It should be there. And if we run that, we do get a nice little graphical window, which just shows we're very, very bottom heavy on our salaries. There's not many people at the top, very, very bottom heavy at the bottom. I mean, just to make that a little bit clearer, let's just kind of log 10 it. And then we'll run that. And there you go. You can see we've got a bit of a clearer box plot. You can see very much kind of bottom heavy, and then it kind of spreads out a little bit with a lot of the outliers at the top. So that's basically it. I mean, I wasn't going to go into any sort of box plot, scatter graphs, etc. That wasn't kind of the point of this. It was more just to kind of show how easy it is to connect SQL Server to R, so you can actually start using it directly on top of SQL Server. I just find this far easier than trying to get the data into a data frame, then start kind of cleansing it and doing the weird stuff and all that kind of malarkey. It's a lot easier just to do all your joins, all your kind of manipulation in SQL itself, and then just push it into R to do the actual analysis and the learning on it. So this is the quick way of doing it. Create yourself an ODBC, and then just get RODBC as your package, and then quite happily do a little connection, pull in your query, job done. You can just use it as a normal data frame. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful, and then maybe I'll do some more R stuff in a different video. I haven't quite decided yet, or hopefully SQL stuff. That would kind of be more useful. If you want any SQL stuff, obviously our website, qtech.co.uk, is in the description. We've got 250 plus blog posts about SQL Server. We've got some on other technologies that we're starting to add in. Go visit the site, have a look around. We've got training courses, we do consulting, we do services, all manner of stuff. But yeah, hopefully it was helpful, and see you again later.